Hi Year 10. Okay, welcome to lesson 1 of cybersecurity. This is a new topic. We haven't covered this before, although some of you will have done some work online, particularly with some of the things that Mr. Little has done in the past. So you've covered a little bit at Key Stage 3, but it's a new topic for our GCSE course. I will ask you at times to pause the video. There'll be some questions to answer. I'd like you to record your answers, preferably in your exercise books. If you don't have your exercise book, don't worry about it. Put it on some paper, or you could use a Word document if you prefer. Just make sure you've got everything you need before we begin, and pause the video if you need to at any point. So, cybersecurity, what is it? Well, here's a definition. So it's made up of the processes, practices and technologies designed to protect networks, computers, programs and data from attack, damage or unauthorized access. So what we will do in this unit of work is we will look at what are the threats to our computer systems, our data. What are we wanting to protect them from? And we're also going to look at how we protect them. So, you know, simple things like passwords, and looking at other things such as, you know, what software we might use to help protect our data or our programs. Okay, so we'll move on to this. We'll probably be looking at those in future lessons. Today's more of an overview in terms of cybersecurity. So why data is so important? Millions of organisations, as you can see here, keep data about their customers, members, products. So, you know, here's some examples. Schools. I'm hoping you've got an appreciation of what type of data schools will store about you. You know, your address, your date of birth, exam information, what exams are you entered for, what have your grades been, report feedback, you know, lots of different bits of your attendance information. So lots of bits of information there that we use. We keep data about you. We also have, you know, limited data about your parents because we need to know how to contact them. So their names, their address, their phone numbers. Teachers. Somebody's doing something outside with a drill. I hope you can't hear that. Banks, shops, doctors, these are all other organisations which store information about their customers, and as I say, their members. It could be their employees, etc. Shops will also store data about their products, you know, what it is they're selling, how many they've got in stock. That's quite important information for shops that enables them to function. You know, imagine what would happen if they lost all of their data. Now, for a shop, if the shop lost, let's say it was a high street shop, so they tend not to store customer details too much, maybe the loyalty cards, but that's not imperative. But for a shop with the stock that it has, if they lost all of their data, and you went in, you wanted to buy something, potentially they wouldn't be able to sell you that product because they would require their database about all of their products so that they could scan that barcode and add that to your itemized bill to charge you. You know, every product you scan, like at the supermarket, you scan the barcodes and it adds it to your bill, and then you pay at the end. If the shop doesn't have that data, then it can't sell you those products. You know, so potentially going to lose a lot of business if that data is lost. Now that data might only be lost for a short period of time, and we'll come on to why, you know, why that might be, but it could have serious implications for how much money they make. So what I would like you to do on the next slide, I would like you to describe some consequences if a bank lost the account details of its customers. Now, to give you sort of an example, I've done this for the school. So you can see here we've got for the school what happens after and if the data's gone for an hour, for a day, or for a week. Now for the school, it's not going to cause too much disruption, particularly if it's just 1 hour. So we lose our data for 1 hour, you're not going to notice much. Maybe your teacher can't find a PowerPoint, they can't take the register for that particular lesson, but it's not going to be significant. You probably wouldn't notice in some lessons. If we lost data for a day, it would be inconvenient because we might not be able to find our PowerPoints for that day, the registers, you know, some deadlines might be due, we might not be able to, you know, if it was a parents' evening, we might struggle to access the data that we required in order to do that. So, you know, depending on the day, it may be more or less significant, but generally it's likely to be a normal day, just a bit trickier. If we lost that data for up to a week, then again, your lessons would continue, but it would cause a lot of extra work for staff, you know, trying to put together resources and trying to maybe replan certain lessons because you're trying to make up for the fact that you can't get access certain things. We'd probably have managed to sort out paper registers and find a way around it, but you would probably notice a change to some of your lessons and some of the things that are going on if you were without that data for a week. Now for a bank, that's going to be more significant. There would be a lot more noticeable changes and consequences if all of their account data, if all of our customer account details are lost. So what I would like you to do, and you can pause the video in a moment to do this, but I would like you to describe some of those consequences, you know, for the bank customers and potentially the bank if it lost data for up to an hour, up to a day, or up to a week. If you need any help with this, there are a couple of examples in the news recently, and I say recently, maybe in the last couple of years, of banks who have had serious problems with their databases and customers haven't been able to access their accounts or make payments. So we'll give you an idea of some of those consequences if you wanted to look that up, but that's your choice. Okay, so write this down in your books or on your Word document. Pause the video until you have completed it. Okay, so essentially, cybersecurity, cybercrime, we're all potential victims. So many organisations store our data and our personal data, and if they fall victim to hacking or certain cyber crimes, you are potentially a victim. You just have to think about how many organisations hold your data. You know, 2 examples there in the news that affected me. Essentially, I'm a customer of EasyJet and I use Facebook. So 2 examples there where you think, oh crikey, I best go and, you know, check whether, you know, I'm directly affected here if I'm one of those accounts that has been hacked. What would you do in that instance? Well, certainly change your passwords as soon as you can, and get in contact with those companies to see if you are one of those people that have been affected. There are a number of different types of crime that is committed. You know, cyber attacks here, the examples here are from 2016 in August, and it's got a bit of a breakdown. So you can see that the largest wedge, okay, is 72% of attacks are cybercrime. Now, you've covered a bit of this before at Key Stage 3. So cybercrime would include hacking, phishing, and malware. Okay, hopefully you can remember what those are. If not, I would suggest looking them up. And 14% is hacktivism. 10% cyber espionage and 4% cyber warfare. Okay, so these are the most, where these attacks, what the breakdown was. Well, obviously this is just an example of 2016. So as we can see, with crime being the most common motivation behind cyber attacks, whether that's a hacker who is, wanting to steal information or transfer funds from one account to their own, if they're sort of fraudsters, tricksters, it could be malicious software. The lesser common motivators, hacktivism, and cyber warfare. What we're going to do next is I want you to find out a little bit about those. So this last activity that I want you to do for this lesson is, as you can see, it's one of the PG Online worksheets. Now I have, or I will, I've not done it yet, but it will be there by the time you're listening to this. There will be a Word document uploaded on ClassCharts, which is this worksheet. You don't have to download and print off that worksheet if you don't want to. Hopefully you can read those questions on the screen okay, so if you want to just answer them directly into your book, that's absolutely fine. Don't worry about wasting print credits at home or wasting paper at home printing those. So you'll see there it's asking you to go to a website called Hackmageddon, where you can access some latest statistics on cyber attacks, just to show really what's going on. If you can't find anything recent, if you can't navigate your way particularly around the website, that bit isn't as urgent or it is imperative. You may wish to use other websites to access information to find out about hacktivism and cyber warfare. So a little bit of research to do here. So I'd like you to answer these 3 questions. Obviously you'll each have your own opinion as to whether you think hacktivism is a force for good or for evil. I'll leave that, when you've had a look at some of those examples, I'll leave that to you to decide. But yeah, once you've completed these, just remember, I want you to upload your answers, your classwork from today, to ClassCharts so that I can see that you've engaged with it, that you've done it. Okay, and that's the end of today's lesson once you've completed those questions. So I've talked for almost 14 minutes. I hope it was okay. I'm not going to listen back to it because I hate the sound of my own voice. But yeah, I hope to see you all soon, and take care. Okay, bye.